Hi humans and welcome back to the Unleash and Unveil community. If you're looking behind me and you're like, this does not look like you living in the van, that's because after 7 months of doing van life, I recently stopped and got myself in an apartment, and I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. Number one, your girl was waking up every single day in a different place. I am a wild, unhinged Sagittarius, and I live for the thrill. I live in the unknown. I woke up in alpaca farms, horse farms, blueberry farms. Like, the adventure that van life actually provided was second to none. Every single day was literally a deep dive in the unknown. Every single day, what happened actually was it sparked my inner child. Remember what it felt like to be kids and just feel like, oh my God, I can't wait to see so-and-so in the playground or in the courts. Like, it just became this beautiful remembrance of what it feels like when we're activating joy and when we're activating adventure and when we're activating us just being fully present. Number two, having nature be my backyard and my backdrop was a content creator's dream. I literally did not run out of ideas. Although when I first went traveling with my wife and my dog, my whole intention was to be immersed in nature, really connect to the land and work less. But what actually started to happen was I couldn't stop the floodgates of creativity. I had another idea for another program and another idea to run a retreat in XY place. Like, I finished my book proposal. It was an absolute dream to take my business on the road, to let go of all of the stuff, to sell all my apartment and the things in it and my clothes. The thing that I actually really loved was being on the road. I so appreciated wanting to be active that it made my decision-making skill as a CEO sharper. Like, there was no time to waste. I thought I had a really pretty streamlined process before. Heck no. When I went on the road, I realized, like, nope, you only have 2-3 hours to work. Let's get it done. Don't get distracted. I was super focused. I made decisions. I wasn't doubting myself. And it actually sharpened my skill and decision making as a CEO. Number three, the freedom of connecting with Mother Nature and the elements was beyond anything that I had ever expected. I mainly practice yoga, meditation, mindfulness, so I'm very aware and keen to all of this. But actually living in a van full time and understanding how powerful the elements are and needed. I can't tell you the one time where we needed to cook and we couldn't start a fire and how frustrating that was. Or the time where we had the awning out and we were in the middle of nowhere and a gust of wind came and almost ripped the awning. And I was like, holy crap. Like, the energy of wind could literally just rip this thing out. Or the time that we actually got stuck in the mud. The whole entire van got stuck in the damn mud and we had to get a tractor trailer to pull us out. Working with the elements made me realize how beautiful, intentional, and powerful they are. I was bowing down to all the elements as I was outside. Number four, the people that you meet on the road are priceless. When you meet people who have the same mindset as you, where they want to be more present, they want to be more alive, they're doing things a little offbeat. The friendships that you make on the road, for me, I'm cherishing with my whole heart. The people who opened up their homes, the people who helped me, the people who dug me out of the mud, every single person, I just honor them. Chills. I literally got chills because it just reminds us that we're never alone and that there are angels and beautiful people that God's source universe puts in our way to help guide the journey. Number five, my intuition sharpened like it was nobody's business because my survival was connected to it. I had to be alert. I had to look at my surroundings constantly. I had to analyze and scan the situation. And trust me, there have been a lot of places that I went to where I was like, babe, we gotta go. We have to get out of here now. It's not safe. They're looking at us a certain way. Like, you can just feel it. So your intuition, that inner being, that that passenger that is always with you starts to nudge. And I started to realize that my intuition started to sharpen and become more alive, from sleeping at a parking lot in Planet Fitness to sleeping in places that were completely unknown in the total darkness in a field in the middle of nowhere. You would be surprised how quick fear comes arising. And so the intuition played a really big part. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the reasons and things that actually happened during van life that ultimately stopped us after 7 months. The first thing I want to share, which is probably the most important thing that I don't see a lot of people talk about online, is our mental health. I think that it's okay if you go off the grid for a month, 2 months, 3 months, heck, even a year. I know so many people do this forever and it's a lifestyle and they do it for a lot longer, but your mental health gets challenged when you're on the road. And the reason why is because after it was fun and my inner children were playing, figuring out where will we go next, and being slingshot into the unknown, at a certain point, I wanted the stability. At a certain point, I was tired of moving. I was like, oh my God, here we go again. We have to move. And that ultimately started to wear on my mental health, my partner, my dog got sick. It was just so many things that started to happen that after a while, you start to realize like, oh, this was fun and it was amazing and it was intentional for a certain period of time. But after a while, fetching my own water, going to sleep and not having enough electricity in the freezing cold up north, like all of these things, again, a little adventure is great, but after a while, my body, my soul craved even deeper stillness. I'm a foodie, y'all. Like, I am a vegan and I love to eat, and I am blessed to have married one of the best cooks ever. And we couldn't cook. We couldn't cook the way we desired. We had an electric stovetop and it was so difficult to cook on it because it just sucked the life out of the van. And if you're doing van life and you're watching this, your freaking electricity is golden. Don't make that mistake of having too many things plugged in, which we did, running out of power in the middle of the night. Like, all of these things happen. And ultimately, we just couldn't cook the way we desired. And that was a big thing, especially for my partner, where she uses cooking as therapy. Okay, moving right along. This is probably one of the biggest things that crushed me and played with my emotions, because my dog ended up getting sick, my Shiba Inu. I mean, it was horrible. He was in and out of the hospital. It took months for him to recover. We didn't think he was going to make it, but my boy bounced back, and we ended up doing the whole Northeast. We ended up coming to Florida. And we're so excited. Mainly me. I was so happy being in the heat. But being in the heat with a dog and no AC ultimately shut the whole operation down. We only had a max air fan. We only had one. It was towards the front of the rig. It was great. It was good ventilation. As long as you keep the door open and you put your book screen up, you're good to go. I got used to parking by the beaches where we got a good gust of wind, some shade. All of that was great. But at the end of the day, my dog is number one. I can just tell that my dog wasn't happy. He wasn't playing. He wasn't eating. And ultimately for me, that's where the road ends. You know what I'm saying? King is 14 years old. And so his health is my priority. We outgrew the space. And I think there's so many things I would have done differently. And I'm going to try to give you maybe 2 or 3 things that I would have done differently if I had to do this all over again at the end of this video. So stay tuned. By the way, if you're liking this video, if you're finding it helpful, consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe. Okay, so ultimately, we outgrew the space. We were in a Dodge ProMaster van. I believe it was the 2500. It was really small. And all that fit was the bed, a stove, a fridge. I did create a little work area. But after 7 months of being in the van, I literally cried and wished we would have gotten something bigger. I feel like in the beginning, we always felt like we're not going to be able to drive this thing. It's too big and, it'll be easier. We can, park on the street if we need to. If I said that energy is king, then space is queen. You need space, and there wasn't enough space, and that ultimately started to wear on us as well. We actually didn't want to stop. We wanted to keep going, but because of these 5 things, the operation had to stop. Here are a few things to wrap up this video that I would have done differently. 1, we ended up having a collapsible ladder at the back of the rig, and it was not attached to it. I would have freaking attached it, because ultimately we had this beautiful deck that we never used. I literally went up there once. That's so horrible. In 7 months, it just wasn't something that we were able to utilize, because it was all the way in the back of the van, and we just did not have time to take all of those things out. Number 2, I would have also planned according to the weather. We went all the way down the East Coast, so we went all the way up top to all the way to the bottom, all the way, I'm talking about, to Key West, and we wrapped around, and eventually we ended up staying here in Florida. But ultimately, I would have probably traveled depending on the states that had good weather for me, my dog, and just in general, a better atmosphere to stay doing this for a longer period of time. A couple of other things that I would have done differently was I had the option to install AC, and I'm kicking myself in the ass. I would have installed the AC. I think we would have actually kept going even in the same rig for a couple of months. So all the roads were leading to like, this has to come to a halt, and this has to be a pause. And there was a lot of shit that was coming up for us too. It was like, no, we don't want to stop. And it was just really tuning into like, this is what's present, and we just have to honor that. The last thing, which I think is the most important thing when it comes to van life and building a business and having good Wi-Fi, which by the way, we had Wi-Fi on the van. We used the Mophie, which was absolutely impeccable. The one thing that I wish I could have done more was stay in one location. I think if we would have went to few less places and we would have stayed there for a lot longer, that would have made a big motherfucking difference. But instead, we basically moved almost every 2 to 3 days. Like, we always had a list of things to do and places to see, and I wish I would have just planted my feet more and stayed in one place. All right, humans, that's my recap. We have completely relocated to Florida, which I love. We're out the van. Morning Glory is now going to be rented, so I'm super excited for that. We eventually want to get a bigger rig and get back on the road, but for now, this is all. Go with peace, go with God.